Tensions between the United States and China have reached unprecedented levels, particularly in the South China Sea. U.S. Navy patrols navigating these contested waters often find themselves in close encounters with Chinese military aircraft, encounters that are far from routine. These high-stakes intercepts carry significant risks, not just for the pilots involved, but for regional stability and global peace. So what really happens when a Chinese fighter jet intercepts a U.S. Navy patrol? Could these encounters trigger a full-blown conflict? Let's jump straight into the action. The skies over the South China Sea have witnessed a growing number of close encounters between U.S. and Chinese military aircraft, each one a potential flashpoint in this tense region. One particularly alarming incident occurred in February 2023. A Chinese J-11 fighter jet closed to within 20 feet of a U.S. Air Force RC-135 reconnaissance aircraft. The U.S. plane was forced to fly through the wake turbulence of the Chinese jet, a maneuver that U.S. officials described as unnecessarily aggressive and extremely dangerous. And this wasn't an isolated case. Just 2 months earlier, in December of 2022, another J-11 fighter flew within 20 feet of a U.S. RC-135's nose, forcing it to take evasive maneuvers. The close proximity of these encounters shows just how easily a miscalculation could lead to disaster. But it's not just American aircraft that are targeted. In June of 2022, an Australian P-8 maritime surveillance aircraft was intercepted by a Chinese J-16 fighter jet. The Chinese jet released chaff, small bits of aluminum that are used to confuse radar, in such a way that some of it was ingested into the Australian plane's engine, putting the crew at significant risk. These incidents aren't limited to the air either. In October of 2018, a Chinese destroyer came within a mere 45 yards of the USS Decatur, a U.S. guided missile destroyer, during a freedom of navigation operation near the Spratly Islands. The close proximity of these warships highlights the thin line between peace and conflict in this region. Between 2016 and 2023, there have been over 180 reported incidents of unsafe or unprofessional maneuvers by Chinese aircraft and vessels near U.S. military assets in the Indo-Pacific region. Each encounter follows a similar pattern. U.S. or allied forces conduct what they consider routine patrols in international airspace or waters, while China views these activities as provocations near its claimed territory. The Chinese intercepts are then seen by the U.S. as aggressive and dangerous, while China insists that they are necessary defensive measures. The South China Sea isn't just a stretch of water. It's the front line of a global power struggle between the U.S. and China. Spanning 1.4 million square miles, this region is crucial for global trade, with 1/3 of the world's shipping passing through these waters. China claims nearly 90% of the South China Sea, a claim hotly disputed by its neighbors and the international community. The U.S., while not claiming any territory, is determined to keep these waters open for all, seeing them as international waters critical to global commerce and security. China's actions, building and militarizing artificial islands, have sparked alarm worldwide. In response, the U.S. has ramped up military patrols, asserting freedom of navigation and challenging China's expanding influence. But with both nations modernizing their military forces, each encounter in these contested waters carries the risk of miscalculation, and the stakes couldn't be higher. So what exactly happens during these high-stakes encounters? An intercept is a deliberate maneuver where one aircraft approaches another, often to identify it or communicate with its crew. These encounters can range from routine observations to more aggressive maneuvers designed to intimidate or assert territorial claims. In military aviation, the classification of intercepts as safe or unsafe is crucial. A safe intercept involves the intercepting aircraft maintaining a reasonable distance, typically no closer than 500 feet, and avoiding any sudden or aggressive maneuvers. The intercepting pilot should also establish visual or radio contact with the intercepted aircraft to convey intentions clearly. However, unsafe intercepts, which have become increasingly common in the South China Sea, may involve flying dangerously close, making abrupt maneuvers, or using electronic warfare systems to interfere with the other aircraft's instruments. These actions not only violate international norms, but also significantly increase the risk of accidents or miscalculations that could lead to broader conflicts. The legal framework governing airspace in the South China Sea is complex and hotly disputed. Under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, countries have the right to an EEZ, extending 200 nautical miles from their coastlines. Within this zone, nations have sovereign rights over resources, but cannot restrict the freedom of navigation or overflight of other countries. China's claims, however, extend far beyond the limits set by UNCLOS. The 9-dash line encompasses areas that are thousands of miles from China's mainland coast, overlapping with the EEZs of other nations. The United States, which has not ratified UNCLOS but generally follows its principles, maintains that its aircraft are operating in international airspace and have the right to conduct surveillance missions without interference. This disagreement over the interpretation of international law forms the backdrop for many of the tense encounters between the U.S. and Chinese aircraft in the region. Each side views its actions as legitimate and necessary, creating a volatile situation where misunderstandings can quickly escalate. Tactical responses by the U.S. Navy. When a U.S. Navy patrol aircraft finds itself intercepted by a Chinese fighter jet, a well-rehearsed set of protocols springs into action. The primary objective of the U.S. crew is to maintain safety while continuing their mission, a delicate balance that requires quick thinking and precise execution. The first step in any intercept scenario is an attempt to establish communication with the approaching aircraft. Using international emergency frequencies, typically 121.5 MHz or 243.0 MHz, the U.S. crew will try to convey their intentions and request that the intercepting aircraft maintain a safe distance. This communication is crucial as it can help de-escalate the situation and prevent misunderstandings. If verbal communication fails, or if the intercepting aircraft continues to maneuver aggressively, the U.S. aircraft may need to take evasive action. This could involve changing altitude, speed, or direction to create more separation from the intercepting jet. These maneuvers are carefully calibrated to increase safety without appearing provocative or confrontational. Throughout the encounter, the crew of the U.S. aircraft maintains constant communication with their command and control centers. Real-time information about the intercept is relayed, including the behavior of the intercepting aircraft, any communication attempts, and the current status of the U.S. aircraft and its crew. Depending on the severity of the encounter, additional U.S. military assets in the region may be put on alert. This can include scrambling fighter jets from nearby bases or aircraft carriers to provide support if needed. The presence of these additional assets can serve as a deterrent against further aggressive actions and provide immediate assistance if the situation escalates. It's important to note that despite these tense encounters, the U.S. aircraft typically continues its reconnaissance mission. These patrols play a crucial role in gathering intelligence on Chinese military activities in the region, including the deployment of new weapon systems, the construction or expansion of facilities on artificial islands, and patterns of naval and air operations. The information gathered during these missions is invaluable for understanding China's capabilities and its intentions in the South China Sea. It helps inform U.S. military strategy, diplomatic efforts, and policy decisions related to the region. This ongoing surveillance and intelligence gathering is a key reason why the U.S. continues these patrols despite the risks involved. U.S. Navy crews undergo extensive training to prepare for these scenarios. Regular drills and simulations help to ensure that personnel can respond quickly and effectively to a wide range of potential intercept situations. This training emphasizes the importance of remaining calm under pressure, following established protocols, and avoiding actions that could unintentionally escalate the situation. Potential outcomes of an intercept. The outcomes of these high-stakes aerial encounters range from tense but harmless standoffs to potentially catastrophic events. At best, both aircraft maintain a safe distance, with the intercepting jet observing the U.S. plane briefly before breaking away. Mid-air collision is one of the most dangerous possibilities, as seen in 2001 near Hainan Island when a Chinese fighter collided with a U.S. Navy plane, killing the Chinese pilot and leading to a tense 11-day standoff. Even without physical contact, these encounters can ignite diplomatic clashes, with both sides lodging formal protests and accusations, further straining already fragile relations. Worse still, if a U.S. aircraft were damaged or forced down, it could trigger a chain reaction of military retaliation, escalating into a broader conflict. And it's not just about the US and China. If an intercept occurs near allies like Japan or the Philippines, it could invoke mutual defense agreements, pulling other nations into the confrontation and significantly widening the conflict. The stakes couldn't be higher. Strategic implications. The frequency and nature of these intercepts have far-reaching implications for military strategy in the Indo-Pacific region. For the United States, these encounters underscore the need for a robust and sustained presence in the area to counter China's growing assertiveness and reassure regional allies. These incidents have led to a reassessment of U.S. military posture in the region. There's been an increased emphasis on developing and deploying advanced reconnaissance and surveillance capabilities that can operate at greater distances, reducing the risk of close encounters. For China, these intercepts serve multiple strategic purposes. They assert China's territorial claims in a tangible way, demonstrating Beijing's willingness to challenge what it sees as U.S. intrusion into its sphere of influence. These actions also serve to gather intelligence on U.S. capabilities and operational patterns, information that is valuable for China's military planners. Moreover, these encounters allow China to test the resolve of the U.S. and its allies. By pushing the boundaries of acceptable behavior, China can gauge how far it can go before triggering a more serious response. This strategy of incremental assertiveness, sometimes referred to as salami slicing, allows China to gradually change the status quo in its favor without crossing the threshold into open conflict. Conversely, an overly aggressive U.S. response could escalate tensions and force regional countries to choose sides, a situation many wish to avoid. Future considerations. Looking to the future, the dynamics of U.S.-China military interactions in the South China Sea are likely to evolve in response to technological advancements, shifting geopolitical realities, and changing strategic priorities. One significant trend is the increasing use of unmanned systems. Both the US and China are investing heavily in autonomous and remotely piloted aircraft and naval vessels. These systems could change the nature of intercepts, potentially reducing the risk to human life, but also introducing new complexities in terms of decision-making and communication. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are also likely to play a growing role in military operations. These technologies could enhance situational awareness, improve decision-making speed, and enable more sophisticated electronic warfare capabilities. However, they also raise questions about the potential for misunderstandings or unintended escalation if AI systems misinterpret complex situations. The ongoing development of hypersonic weapons and advanced missile systems could also alter the strategic calculus in the region. These weapons have the potential to overwhelm existing defense systems, potentially making certain types of naval and air operations more risky. Climate change is even another factor that could influence future dynamics in the South China Sea. Rising sea levels could affect the status of disputed islands and reefs, potentially altering territorial claims. Increased frequency and severity of storms could also impact military operations in the region. There's a growing recognition for the need for clearer communication protocols and de-escalation strategies to prevent these incidents from spiraling out of control. Efforts to establish hotlines and agree on codes of conduct for unplanned encounters at sea and in the air are ongoing, though progress has been slow due to differing interpretations of international law and strategic interests. The role of international law in managing these conflicts remains crucial but contested. While the U.S. advocates for a rules-based international order, China often interprets these rules differently, leading to continued disagreements over the legality of military activities in the South China Sea. Future developments in international maritime law and its interpretation could have significant impacts on how these disputes are managed. As both the U.S. and China continue to develop their military capabilities and refine their strategies, the potential for miscalculation remains a serious concern. Balancing assertiveness with restraint and competition with cooperation will be key challenges for both nations in the coming years. Nonetheless, the stakes in the South China Sea are high, not just for the U.S. and China, but for the entire region and the global order. How these two powers manage their competition in this crucial waterway will have far-reaching implications for international security, trade, and the rule of law in the coming decades. What do you think are the most effective ways for the U.S. to respond to aggressive intercepts by Chinese fighter jets? Should the focus be on diplomatic solutions, or is a show of military strength necessary? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive and learned something new, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more content about the U.S. Navy. Your support helps us continue producing these videos, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.